Hello there, Rabbi. Are you ready for the next 3 weeks?
Joe, it boggles my little mind, the trying to decide. It's like a tennis match or a ping pong match.
Well, I mean, I recently alarmed my wife and daughter no end by saying I had not yet decided how I was going to vote because they're off to the early polls. And I always like to vote on election day. Call me nostalgic. Is it wrong to be not be too excited about our choices this election?
The Talmud goes to great length in many places, and so does several of the 613 commandments in the Torah. They tell us to weigh in our judgment, to be careful before we make a decision, not to, I'm using contemporary language, not to jump into anything. And one of the things the Mishnah says is really curious. When you're a judge and you have the defendant, you believe everything they say when they're in the room. When they leave, you don't believe anything. When the plaintiff is in the room, you believe everything they say. When they leave the room, you don't believe anything they say. And in several places, the Talmud has advice for us in when listening and how to make a decision. And I mean, early voting, absentee ballots, I think that's fine for some people. However, your position is well supported in Jewish law, in the Talmud. The idea that you want to be circumspect, you want to take your time. And I want to introduce one other thing into the mix. We have 18 days to go, 19 days.
Something like that, yes.
A lot of things can influence your decision. And wouldn't it be a shame if you voted today and then 16 days from now you said, Oi, I made a mistake. I should have waited till all the information was in, which is why the rabbis say when someone is before you, you believe and listen. Then when they leave, you don't believe anything and you do your research.
When I talk to people, I want to really say, I don't know. Because if I say I'm definitely voting for Kamala or I'm definitely voting for Trump, then it immediately turns into a big hug or a shouting match. And all thought goes out the window. And I don't see the problem with being able to have an intelligent conversation about it. And the only way you can do that is to say you're undecided. That doesn't stop some people from yelling at me.
Well, that's curious because my wife and I will sometimes say, gee, let's plan dinners for next week. And then we look at each other and we both agree, I don't know what I'm going to feel like Wednesday night. It may not be Prince Spaghetti night. And so, given that, we both agree we won't know what we want to eat until the day or the evening or the lunch. And sometimes when we put things aside or plan a meal and it comes time, we look at each other and say, I don't really feel like that. Can we can we put it back in the freezer or leave it in the fridge? So having a deadline really forces us to focus and forces us to make a choice rather than choosing beforehand. Now, if you definitely know who you want to vote for and you're definitely supporting Trump, you're definitely supporting Harris, that's fine. Go for it. But for a lot of us, we need the deadline in order to sit down, to sharpen the pencil and go, I'm ready.
And all other conspiracy theories aside, there's something about the pomp and circumstance of the day that adds a special je ne sais quoi to the event. There's something good about going into a public booth where everybody else getting the little I voted sticker, shaking the hands of your fellow citizens, and exercising that inexorable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But let's play, pardon my expression, devil's advocate. What's the worst that could happen besides changing your mind at the last minute?
Well, I don't think the devil needs an advocate, by the way, Joe. I think the devil stands alone because in Judaism, we don't have a devil. And the word Satan in Judaism means the God's other side. That's exactly how Judaism views Satan doesn't have a realm. He doesn't have any power. In Judaism, Satan is God arguing with himself, is the personality that challenges God's belief and raises a question. So let's take that at face value, that what's going on here? It's a very volatile election. And we're hearing all kinds of things from both sides. And in the 16, 17 days left, a lot can happen that you may regret casting a ballot for one person or the other. So I think this particular election, unless one has that strong emotional tie, I think waiting until what's for dinner tonight is our best choice.